Cool. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? I know you just heard me cough, so I apologize. I have allergies. My name is Lisa, and I first just want to tell you I'm not going to be talking at you a lot today. My goal today is to provide you with an experience to the degree that you would like to have it. But let me tell you just a little bit of background about myself so that you'll know where I'm coming from. When I was going through a pretty significant life change about a decade ago, I happened to meet the guy who was the head at the time of Washington Improv Theater in Washington, D.C. And he convinced me that what I needed to do in my life to meet new people and just kind of change things around was to take an improv class. So I'd always kind of thought I was funny, and I always wanted to try theater, but I had always been notoriously bad at theater when I had tried it. But he convinced me that this would be okay, and he promised me that I would not be the worst in the class. That was what I said. I said, I just want to know I won't suck the most. And he said, I swear you won't, which was a trick because improv is not competitive, it's collaborative. So there really is no ranking of anyone if you're doing it right. So he tricked me. But I walked into my first improv class not actually knowing what it was. I didn't know if it was going to be stand-up. I had never seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? I had no actual clue what I was going to be doing. And many of you may have no idea right now what I'm talking about. But what I discovered was that it was 8 weeks of the most joyful, playful fun I had ever had. It was games at a level of difficulty that I always tell people is like duck, duck, goose. I'm always like, if you can play duck, duck, goose, you can play an improv game. But it's a level of play and fun that I was like, I have not been in touch with this and I don't know how long. Nobody thought about work. We didn't even talk to each other. I didn't even know what anyone did in my class because we were literally just there being present and playing with one another. And it was one of the most liberating, fun experiences that I had. So as I kept going on with improv, I realized I was never going to be a great performer. I was never going to be on stage at Saturday Night Live. But I didn't care because I liked what it was doing in my life. I was taking more risks. I was managing my anxiety differently. I was looking at opportunities differently and saying yes to more things, which led eventually to me saying yes to getting a degree in social work. And when I decided to go back to school for social work, what I discovered was, oh my gosh, everything I'm learning about how to be a good therapist and a good clinician are all the same skills of a good improviser. And basically what we know are that those are the skills of good relating and healthy relating and living. So I decided I was going to be the first person to discover the links between improv and therapy. And I decided to do a research paper on it where I discovered that everyone else had already discovered this, which was very discouraging a little bit. Improv was actually invented in the settlement houses by a social worker. Daniel Weiner had already written Improvisation for Psychotherapists, so I was kind of like, okay, so I'm not going to invent this, but I'm going to continue to practice it and learn about it. So in my practice now, I am in private practice in Washington, D.C. I see individuals, couples, and groups. And I do a lot of training for therapists in improv. And I do that in order to help them see their own stuff, gain more self-awareness, gain more empathy and compassion for their clients, as well as because I believe that we need the spontaneity and playfulness of improv in our work. So there are many levels to why I do this. But that's kind of the initial piece. I think the thing that I want to give to you guys, I'm not going to give you a lecture on improv. I'm going to teach you a lot of the principles through the games that we're playing. The thing I want you to kind of, I think, be thinking about is that, when we think about substance abuse work, which I did for my first 2 or 3 years out of school, I feel like we think about it as like we're trying to get people to say no to something. We're trying to get them to say no to an old behavior. But really what we need to do if they're going to do that successfully is get them to say yes to a lot of different other things. Yes to new friends, yes to taking new social risk, yes to new environments. And so that's where I feel like improv can be really helpful because these games provide us with an environment to try on new yeses, to first of all see what our yeses are, what our defaults are, what our normal patterns are, and then if we want to try it on differently in a very low stakes environment where it does not matter at all. As you will experience, you will still get anxious, it will still be scary, and therefore by doing the exercises, you learn to overcome that anxiety. So, I think I'm going to stop lecturing at you there. Because this is, I will admit, just as a part of my process, I have never led a group this big. Usually my groups are like 5 to 20. So when I came in this morning and she said it was 70 to 85 people, I had a mild panic attack over there and was like, oh my gosh. But I remembered that the answer to that is always just to improvise, to trust the moment, trust the process, trust that everything will be fine. So I'm letting you in on that because we'll see how it goes, and I'm not going to keep it a secret. But I think what we're going to do is I have some exercises that I'm going to invite everyone to do as a group. Anything that I invite you to do, you don't obviously have to do, but you are welcome to. After we do each exercise, I'm going to facilitate a small group discussion among those who participated or didn't participate about some questions to kind of help you think about your own process, and then we'll move into a new exercise. Some of the exercises I think I'm going to call for volunteers, and we'll do it as sort of a fishbowl because I don't think it'll work with 80 people and I still want you to see them. So we'll just kind of go back and forth, but I want to try to have you all as involved as possible. And the other thing that I always say when I'm training clinicians is I really encourage you to be here as you. I want to encourage you to leave your clinical brain behind because I want you to experience this as a person and as your patients might. And then at the end, I usually leave 15 to 20 minutes for question and answer when you can kind of put on your clinical brain and we can talk about applications. But I really encourage you to just do this as you, as a human. Don't worry about being right and knowing everything. You really need to be in a beginner's mind place to do this. So let yourself do that. Don't feel like you got to be smart right now. You'll have way more fun if you just let yourself be really dumb. Cool? Okay, awesome. So I think the first thing that I'm going to ask you guys to do is I'm going to ask you one thing that the main principle of improvisation, which is also probably relevant to many of your substance abuse and other clients in general, is unconditional, unabashed support. The whole idea when you come onto an improv stage with a troupe is I have got your back. I don't care what you do. I am not going to stand there and judge you. I am not going to be like, oh, that was stupid. I'm out. You're going to say, yep, me too. Yes, me too. And I'm going to join you, and I'm probably going to make whatever you just did that looked silly even bigger so that you don't feel silly anymore, and that's how we're going to find something new and exciting. And either way, we're going to have fun and we're going to play. So in order to create safety in improv, and the safety that improvisers need to take risks, the first thing that we do is create an environment of unabashed support for one another. So I'm going to invite you guys to do that in the way that improvisers do before they go on stage, which is they go around and they say, and I'm not going to have you do this with everyone because we'd all be here all day, but they say to everyone in their troupe, they pat them on the back and they say, I got your back. And I want you guys to experience that because it's powerful. So I'd like to invite you, if you're open to it, and if you're okay with being patted on the back, and if you're not, just stay sitting, that's totally fine. There's no judgment. But stand up, walk around, greet a couple people, pat them on the back, and say, I got your back. To signal that in this environment we're all playing, we support each other's play, we support each other's experimentation, we're going to have a good time, and nobody's going to get judged or laughed at. Cool? So let's do a little I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. I got your back.
All right, I got your back.
I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. And when you feel good and supported, go ahead and take a seat. Feels nice, right? There's a lot of energy with that. I sort of feel like we should all start all the time, everything we do with that. So that's just kind of the spirit that I want you to carry into this. And knowing that the people that come up here to do activities are going to be doing it with an audience, they're going to be nervous. But that we are all in that spirit of, I got your back, let's just try this. You know, there's no stakes, let's just play. So the next thing I want to invite everyone to do, because I'm going to do two things to help get your energy up, and then we'll kind of go into our fishbowl stuff. So for anyone who's open to it, I'd like for you to, again, stand up and go ahead and do that, because we're going to go. I have a mic and I'm loud, so we'll make this work. And normally I do this, and I mean, for the people that are near chairs, you're going to need a little bit of room, so feel free to fill this in. I normally do this in a circle, just so you know, but I don't care. It's fine. So come on out into the middle, give yourself some space. You're going to kind of be moving around like this much, so give yourself some room. Cool. So as we know, the rule of improv with support, I look at as the equivalent of, if I am doing something that makes me look stupid and look like a jerk, you should be doing it too. So the whole idea is nobody looks silly on their own. We're all in this together. We're all trying new things, and we're going to see how that feels. So this is a game called Crazy Eights. It's a silly game. It's not a hard game. It's basically like if you can count, you can do this. But we're going to do two versions of it, and then we're going to talk about how they each feel, because you might be kind of surprised. So basically the whole element of this is I'm going to count to 8 here, and I'm going to yell 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to do 8 on my right hand. I'm going to do 8 on my left foot, 8 on my right foot. Then I'm going to do 7s, 6s, 5s, 4s. Because you guys don't want me to look silly, you're going to do this with me to the same degree that I am doing it. We're all just going to be yelling numbers and shaking until we're done. Okay? Cool. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. No, no, no. Nice. Was anyone thinking about work while we did that? No. Okay. So we're all learning how out of shape I am. So I want you to so you've done that once. Nice job. We all survived. I want us to do the exact same thing again. Now you know the mechanics. This time, though, I want you to focus on connecting with each other in the room with eye contact. So exact same thing. It's not going to be any harder. You don't have to worry about anything mechanical. Feel free to move around if you want or not if you don't. But I want you to try to be connecting with at least another human as you go. Try to be making eye contact the whole time. And we'll see what happens. This is just an experiment. We'll see what happens. Cool? Ready. Okay. 1, 2. Question? Oh, no. Okay. Sorry. It always looks like a question. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. Woo! Nice. So have a seat. I need to catch my breath. So let's talk for a minute, because that's a silly game. You can just do that game and then go on stage. But what did you notice between the two different versions? When I asked you to focus on connection versus when I didn't?
It was more fun when you look at people.
Why? It was more fun when you looked at people. How come?
Because you could laugh more.
Because, yeah, everybody was like laughing, cracking up. And I mean, we weren't doing anything funny. I mean, it was the same thing. But for some reason, by doing it with someone else, it felt nicer. And we weren't like, the content wasn't better. We weren't doing anything more interesting or smart. We were just connected, and that made it more joyful.
I was just saying it was the connection.
Yeah.
We weren't alone individuals doing it. We were connected with people, which in a way normalized it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole, I'm not doing this, I don't feel self-conscious and weird. Is everybody else doing this the same? It's like, we are doing this ridiculous thing together, and it's fun to kind of do together. It changes, and I don't need to draw the line, I don't think, to you between why we put our patients in groups and why we want them to have support, because that's exactly the physiological feeling that we want them to be having, because things get easier when we do them with other people. Did you notice anything else between the two versions?
I lost my shoes.
She lost her shoe. I noticed that as well. I have had multiple programs where people lose shoes. I view it as a sign of success. When a shoe comes off, I feel like I've done my job. Did you have a?
Yeah, it was more outrageous because it's nothing you would do in real life. So you could make eye contact with someone, so you could have co-conspirators in your outrageousness.
Be like, can you believe that we're doing this? But we're not doing anything actually bad or silly. It's just like,
liberating.
this is so weird, right? Yeah, it's even more liberating to do it with someone.
I started mirroring. You know, you kind of lose where you are because we're not watching you. So I started mirroring the person across me.
And was she doing anything like in the way that she was moving? You mean, or like?
I lost focus on count that many times. It was
Uh-huh. And that happens. I've lost focus as the leader on that part because I'm so busy trying to make it. So then I'm like, where were we? And who cares? So you like screwed up. Who cares? Because you're having fun, right? But that's real. I've never heard anybody talk about mirroring, but that's interesting. That it's very hard to connect to someone and not start taking on kind of what they're doing. You start a feedback loop, right? And we actually have a mirroring exercise I'm going to invite you guys to do in a little while, but that's very cool to pay attention to.
That's interesting, because we didn't hear, and we didn't care. You know? We were having a great deal of fun, I think, but it just didn't happen that we mirrored, and it was like, okay, we're not going to mirror.
And my guess is that part of why there is a sense with the second one, more of a sense of we don't care. Like, we're not counting right, and the number might be off, and nobody cares. And I don't know why, but I believe that that is unconsciously because we know everyone is more focused on connecting than on whether we are doing this right. So our performance anxiety went down in the second part. And that's why you were all having more fun, and it was more joyful. It was less about like, okay, I gotta do this right, and there's probably some trick she's gonna do, and I look kind of goofy, and I don't want to be, like we're uninhibited in that way because of the connection. So that's the power of connection. It can be over anxiety and over performance anxiety.
I was going to say that I kind of experienced that, how performance anxiety gets in the way of connection because I'm having some problems with my legs that make it impossible for me to stand on one foot. And so I felt like I was kind of failing to connect adequately because I was so a little bit worried about falling over. And so I know that it's harder to be present with people when you're thinking about something like that.
That's perfect. Like noticing that pendulum and how that focus on doing it right is somehow more important or like impedes in as opposed to just, I'm just here shaking. Who cares? Like what's shaking? Nobody even knows what number we're on at some point. So that's a beautiful observation.
You know what? I wasn't even going to say anything until you said something because you were standing right next to me. And I turned and at one point I was standing with her. And when she said that she had a disability, I want you to know, I didn't even notice. And when you said that, I had to turn around to even say, who is that speaking? Because you were right here. I was so busy in the moment and doing all this with you, I didn't even notice. So we were kind of like all joined as one, and to a point where I did not even notice that she wasn't doing the part she wasn't.
Right, but we make up these stories, right, about all my deficiencies are getting noticed, this is what's the big deal, and everybody else is like, I'm just focused on you or my own thing, or so it's a great reminder of like, it's not a big deal if we can somehow practice and just remember that and let ourselves be in the moment and just have fun.
I actually had more anxiety the second time than I did the first time.
Yes.
And because the first time I knew I could do it myself, I didn't know about the connection in doing it, and it wasn't until I lost my shoe that I gave it up.
Okay. Well, did anybody have any like rejection anxiety the second time? Like, I'm trying to find people and they're not looking at me. Like, what's going on? Like, why isn't anybody looking at me? Everybody else is connected. I'm not connecting. So you get a different kind of anxiety with the connection piece. Some of us do, right? And that, I think, is often what our patients experience, is that different, especially with substance abuse. So the first one is kind of like that performance anxiety that I think can drive and be going on with substance abuse. And then when you want people to stop doing that, it's like, but now you got to deal with this connection anxiety. And that's different, and it's a little bit harder because you got to deal with all those questions of like, she's looking at her, but nobody's looking at me, and what's that about, and is it me? But the more you practice, you realize like, no, everybody's just looking around. It's probably just random, right? Like, nobody was looking at me, probably because I'm in charge, and also because everybody's busy, like, and you all know each other. So it's like I can get lost in that, or I can just keep trying to find the connection that's there. So we have to be aware of and understand and help our clients work through like, yeah, this isn't no anxiety what you're trying to do. It's different anxiety. But you can play with it and work through it and adjust to that too. And if you can, the payoff is really good because you get to have that joy and connection and fun. Cool? Yes?
Something interesting happened, which was when we stood up and we knew who that showed who was willing to do it. And we started we're going to have to pair up thing. And there was nobody beside me and nobody in front of me looking at me. Everybody was behind me except for the people looking the other way. And the thing is, that was an anxiety thing for me a little bit. I would have turned around if necessary, but the thing was, in front of me was somebody else by herself looking the other way, and nobody was next to her. So I went, and solved both problems simultaneously, and it worked out wonderful.
So instead of kind of that panic which could set in, or like, I give up, I'm leaving, like this isn't going to work. Right. But if we can teach ourselves and each other to hang in there, we'll get the connection, but we might have to do something uncomfortable or think through it in a different way. But it's, you're in a room with abundant connection, and it's interesting that initial feeling of like, there's nobody here for me. I'm alone. I'm staring at someone's back. Like, no, you're not. But you might have to move around and find it, or trust that it'll find you. Yeah, exactly. She doesn't know. She's looking at somebody's back too, so let me give her some eyes. And I think knowing, like, can I be a giver in that is very empowering. Like, I don't just have to wait for it to come. I can go give it to somebody. Awesome. So I think, given what we just talked about, I think I actually want to invite you guys to do the mirroring exercise next. And this is something that you do in twos. So again, anyone who wants to can participate. And what I would say is find a buddy. It can be a buddy. This is going to trigger everybody's high school anxiety. If there is not one person, like if we end up with not enough, you can be in groups of 3. It will still work. But just kind of pair off and find yourself some space around the room standing. And then I will walk you through. Right. That's what it's designed, yeah.
It's really powerful.
Cool, so everybody has a buddy? Do we have any groups of 3? Just so I can be aware for instructions. Okay. So the shorter person in the duo is going to be person A. I'm just going to make that easy for you. It's usually me. That's why I picked that. I'm making fun of myself. So the shortest person is going to be A. The taller person will be B. So I want you to face your partner. And for those of you that are back, like with tables, there's room out here. If anybody wants to come out here, give yourselves some space. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to time you for about a minute and a half. And A is going to create one side of a mirror with any movements that A wants to do, right? We've all seen like the miming exercises. Now the trick of this is you want to look like a mirror, which means that A's job is not to be like, oh, I'm going to get you. Like, I'm going to do real fast stuff. You want to set each other up for success. So A wants to be followable. So A's probably going to move kind of slow and deliberately, and then B is just going to try to be their exact mirror. And you guys are going to get in sync. At a minute and a half, I'll call time. I'm going to just circulate, and if I think somebody's moving a bit quick, I might encourage them to slow down. But your goal together is to really be unified. So if you can remember that, and you know, sometimes A will start thinking like, oh, but I want to do something fun and interesting, I want to dance, but you also have to be thinking like, can B keep up with that in real time? Like if mirroring is my goal, is this doable? And so that kind of checks what you're checking your own impulses against what the duo can do. So I'm going to give you just a minute and a half. This should be relatively silent. So, you know, you're not necessarily trying to like, there's no talking, and you're not trying to make like sound gestures for anybody to be able to, there's no trick in this. But just kind of move and let B follow you, and I'll call time and we'll switch. So ready, set, go. B is having trouble keeping up. A should slow down. The most important part is the feeling in sync. There is no right or wrong in terms of the kinds of movements. Everybody's doing fine. All right, and stop. Awesome. So shake that off. So now you shook that off. Now you're going to switch. And if A was not nice, they're going to wish that they were, because now B is in charge. So you're going to do the exact same thing, only this time B will be leading and A will be following. So same thing. Overall goal is to be in sync and in tune. There is no right or wrong way to move. There is no right or wrong way to be. Just kind of try to get as in sync with your partner as you can with B leading. And go. All right, and stop. Awesome. Shake that one off. So we have 2 iterations left of this. You are not yet done. You are not yet done bonding with your partner. I hope you guys like each other. So phase 3 is you are going to do the exact same thing, only no one is in charge. So your goal is to stay in sync and to look like a mirror without an appointed leader. So this requires more of an in-present focus, but you've now had a good 5 minutes total, and you would be surprised about what 5 minutes of intense focus on one other person can do. You've had time to get in sync with your partner, and now you're just going to try to work together collaboratively to be a perfect mirror without knowing who's in charge. And let's just see what happens. Ready? Set. Go. All right, cool. Stop. Shake that off. So for the grand finale, and then this is really cool because normally I have everyone participating because I have a much smaller class. But now I have observers. So I've got this cool videographer and I got some people who haven't been participating who can be witnesses with me. Because what's going to happen next is that you're going to do exactly what you just did, which is just try to be as in sync as you can with each other with no one leading. Only you are going to do it with your eyes closed. I know, right? That's weird. And I know it sounds like, why? That makes no sense. But you might be surprised, and I now have witnesses who can back up, it's usually just me, whether or not this works. No one else will know because your eyes will be closed. So you won't even know if you're doing it right, so who cares? I'm not going to have you do it for as long as you were doing it. But I want you to you have been in sync with this person for over 5 minutes with fully attuned physical, listening, other contact. And you may be surprised at how much you can pick up and stay in tune without your actual visual senses in that moment. So just give it a whirl. Nothing bad can happen, just try. I have my witnesses to attest if this was ridiculous or not, and we'll just see what happens. So face your partner in the same place you have been. And again, there is no trick with this. It's not like, oh, I'm supposed to lead with sounds so they can follow me. You're doing exactly what you just did. And now everybody, if you're comfortable, close your eyes. And when I say go, do your best to mirror your partner who you cannot see, just based on what you have been doing. No peeking allowed. No peeking. Ready? Go. Freeze. Oh yeah, and freeze in place. So stay where you are so you can see. So you can kind of check where you and your partner are. And go ahead and shake that off. And I want to ask my observers, what did my observers see? Hold on. This group and you two were like creepy. Were you watching them? It was creepy. Like, first of all, you both started before I said go, but you started at the same time. And you were like exactly in parallel. Did anybody see this? Yeah. To back it up, I am not making this up. You were exactly in sync. You two were doing the same thing, but opposite. So like one of you'd go this way, and one of you would go that way. Did the observers notice anything else? Just.
Some were just a little bit behind. They did the same movements, but it was a little bit behind. One did it first, and then the other one did it, whether they sensed the movement or whatever.
Yeah.
You two, especially at these two.
Yeah. So go ahead, have a seat. Now I have my witnesses to back up that you guys were in sync. So let's talk about what that brought up for you. This can bring up a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of different levels that you can debrief and talk about it or experience it. So let me just openly ask, what did you notice about yourself throughout that? It could be anything. What made it easy, hard? What did you notice you were thinking, feeling?
Well, it was liberating in this way because the task was, in one level, one sense of things, impossible. So since it was impossible, there was no losing. No losing, no pressure.
Exactly. So right. So if you kind of set up like there's no actual way to succeed or to fail, it just is. Right. And also kind of no one will know, right? It's like we both have our eyes closed, right? Except for the observers. But generally with this, there would not be observers because I would have everyone participate. Then yeah, you can reduce stress by taking away both success and failure. I don't know what that means in life, but that's interesting. What else did you notice?
It highlighted the level of connection that I had with my partner, and that by the end of it, we were doing similar things, but we didn't know it. But we had that enough knowledge about the other person's movements or habits or things that we would kind of typically do when we were looking at each other, that we could model it even after we didn't have eyes.
You had very high levels of attunement to one another in a very short amount of time. And most of this was unconscious. I didn't see any groups that it felt like somebody was trying to strong arm and be like, I'm in charge, I'm gonna make you do what I do. But we tend to pick up more about each other by paying deep attention than we think. And so I think for people that are really trying to change behaviors, this is powerful for us as practitioners because of everything we know about the importance of attunement, and that's fine. But I think this can really speak to how much of an influence the people around us can have on us. And really helping people want to, think about who they're spending time with, who they're around, who are they being influenced by. Because things are getting in rapidly and possibly more deeply than we realize and have an impact on our behavior, or can if we let it. Anything else you noticed?
This may sound strange, but I found myself listening. I could almost feel the energy if it came real close to me. I knew I was in sync with him when I could feel him.
Yeah.
And then I would listen to hear. I'm using other senses.
Right. Ones that you may not use, but were you surprised that they were pretty good? Even though they're not your default senses. You're like, that worked.
Because I use it in my practice.
Okay. So
But
it was
it
one.
really showed me that I do use that.
Okay, so that may be something you didn't realize you were using as much, or may not have tuned, or may not.
Right.
So a latent skill that you may not have realized or thought of consciously as a strong skill was there for you when you needed it. That's a powerful thing to know. Anything else anybody notice? What did you notice about what came up for you in the leading or following roles? And sometimes this will have been most evident when I took away the leadership. I'm wondering what that brought up for folks. Yep.
One of the things I noticed, we kind of like doing the same things. We were using it to stretch. And so it's multi-purpose.
All right, so and you
Yes,
had a shared goal. You were like on the same page. So that might have felt different if one of you was using it for like calisthenics, but you were both kind of like, okay, we'll just be stretching. We're going to have a mutual goal around this, so that's going to work. Cool. And Dicey?
It felt, I don't know, there was a fluidness to it, at least with my partner and I, where I just felt like we weren't trying, either one of us were really trying to take over. And so it was like we mutually allowed the other person at different points to lead the
just
movement
flow.
and just flow. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I agree with what he said.
Were you his partner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it also reminded me of some of what I've learned from Ericksonian hypnosis, which is about pacing and leading. So the idea is to be in sync. This has certainly had broad applications for therapy. It's like if you're, regardless of what your label is, patient or therapist, it's like it works when you're in sync. And when you're in sync and it's working, the flow is right, the energy is right, then when it's time to do something else, you lead, and then the person here paces you, in which case they were ready, or it doesn't work, in which case you go back to where you were pacing. It also reminded me some of the same principles of really good lovemaking, which is that if you're really in sync, it's like everything just kind of disappears, it just flows. It's really nice.
Right, as opposed to if, yeah. So was there any discomfort at all, or any noticing like, I do not like this role? I do not like following, or I do not like leading, or I do not like it when you tell me I don't know who is in charge.
I was just surprised that it was easier for me to follow, which isn't my personality type.
Which is weird with some of these exercises, is we will often find, and that can, I think, signal a couple of different things, because I have the same thing. I am often in leadership roles, but in improv, I much prefer to be the follower. So we have in improv what we call the initiator and then the follower in a scene. Somebody's got to start the scene, somebody's got to go along with it. I actually much prefer the B role, but I'm constantly in the A role. So what does that mean? It's an interesting thing to reflect on. Like, am I too much in the A role in my life? And maybe I'm not that comfortable and I need to step down more. So I think with our patients, we can just encourage reflection on that. Like, you know, are you pushing a lot and doing stuff that isn't necessarily your comfort zone? Where are you letting yourself be in your comfort zone? Are there places you may need to be a scooch more of a follower? Are there places where you may need to be a scooch more of a leader? You know, we have people that tend to go along with too much and be people pleasers, and that gets them in trouble. And we have people that want to write their own program, do their own thing, don't got time to listen to anybody, and that gets them in trouble. So this can be an interesting exercise just to help us get familiar with some of those unconscious things about like, oh, I don't like that. I didn't know I didn't like that. Because it often will not be obvious in the life pattern. It will be further underneath that. Anybody else notice anything about the leading and following? Whoa. Yes, ma'am.
My partner started a move I could not replicate, and I didn't say anything, he immediately caught that and changed, and it was really nice. I didn't have to say, I can't do that. You know, he read my...
Picked it up. So that's kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that like, if I'm going too fast, I have to be paying attention to who's with me. It's my job not only, it's like, it's not how fast can I go, it's can I keep you with me? And when that becomes part of the task, it's a very different thing. Anybody, I saw...
Well, I raised my hand because I felt that there was a slow, well, it was a fast connection, but there was progress in each stage. Even before the exercise began, they made a conscious effort that instead of them pairing together, they're like, hey, you want to switch it up a little? And I mean, I've only seen her just through these classes. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And being in role A, I knew I was taking it slow because I don't know her. But then when she got the lead role, she like felt comfortable. She even incorporated helping me out with flipping my hair back because it was all in my face. You know, so
are you serious?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then when
You're like, oh, you need to wash your glasses. I'm going to do that for you.
Well, and then when it was whoever's a leader, it was a really smooth transition. Oh, I did a little, she did a little, and then with the closed exercise, we kind of had it was a common thing that, hey, there were dance moves. What song are we gonna do? We weren't doing the right moves because when I felt out, I was like, oh, she's nowhere there. And then when I opened my eyes like I was one step behind, but we were doing it.
But you were
I mean, it,
dancing,
yeah.
and it felt good.
Yeah.
Something about all of that felt good. So you liked that she took the lead and was firm about it, but also in a way, kind of like what everybody's saying, that was honoring of, this is what you might need, and this is what, how I can be there for you. And I think what can be very powerful is, because that's something that we have to practice, and I think experiencing that on a small level. But I heard somebody or a couple people throughout be like, I can't think of anything else to do. I can't think of anything else interesting, right? And I know normally this thing would go on for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can make this super uncomfortable for people, make you be all bondy and starry-eyed. But that comes up because we want people to deal with that idea of like, I can't think of anything interesting to do, because the work of being attuned is generally enough. But we don't feel like that. We don't trust that. We always feel like, I got to do something interesting. I got to do something fun. I got to keep you dancing. I got to like be the most interesting person in the room. But all that does is take us out of those nice moments of, oh, he noticed I needed to slow it down. Oh, she noticed I needed to move my hair back. We don't focus on that stuff as much when we're trying to be interesting and engaging. And so I think providing opportunities in relationship to think about letting go of those things and those distractions and freeing ourselves from needing to be witty and charming and smart and fun can help remind us that really we're enough for each other. Like just being here and being attuned is enough. That's been very helpful for me as a therapist, because I'm the one that likes to say too much and do too much, and I will do too much work and try to be so smart, make all these connections. And I need to remember a lot that that is not as helpful as me just being there and being in tune. I can miss stuff. And so I think having that kind of visceral awareness like you guys experienced of what that's like to be seen and heard, that's enough work. And a lot of the time I think if we can help our clients know sometimes it is enough for you to just like be alive today and be breathing and functioning, that's good enough. You don't have to do all this other stuff too. I think sometimes we need to come back to that. And so this exercise can be a really good visceral reminder of that piece. Oh, good.
About the blind part of it, because when that happened, I had some anxiety that I wanted like some kind of psychic thing to be happening, and it wasn't. But you never told, a light bulb went on, and what it was you never told us that we had to be silent.
Yeah, I did. I actually did.
You did?
Well, I said there's no trick.
Okay.
So yeah. But what would that have meant? So were you thinking like, oh, we could have talked to each other?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's true. It would have been a different experience.
You heard me to do that, but
Right. You were like so into the game. Yeah.
well, I wasn't. I was in my own head, and I didn't like that.
Yeah. So I love how you just bring yourself down. You get in your head and you're like, I'm just going to bring myself down by being here. And those are the same skills that we want our patients to have. One of the things that I learned and that I always tell people, and I'll just say this before we go on a quick break, is that listening is the enemy of anxiety. So what I love to tell my improviser students and sometimes my patients is that when you are freaking out, when you don't know when you are having that social anxiety thing and you're like, everything I say is stupid, what should I say, what should I do, that person doesn't want to talk to me, should I talk to them, is that if you just remember that if you just focus on the person in front of you and focus on being present and a good listener and being there with them, anxiety cannot coexist in your brain at the same time. There is literally not enough room. And then you can come up with an interesting response to what they just said, because you will have heard it instead of all this chatter in your brain about how silly you are, which is not helpful and not interesting. So I think I always just try to bring people back to, if you are freaking out in any moment on stage or otherwise, just come back to concentrating on what's in front of you, trying to understand that, and that will ground you and bring you back to the moment, as opposed to all this, which is never helpful. Cool. Well, I think I'm supposed to give you guys a 5-minute break, so this seems like a good time. So we'll come back around 10, play some more. So I think we can start to come back if you guys are ready. And for the next 2 exercises, I think I actually want to do these in a bit of a fishbowl. So I'll call up about probably 8 to 10 volunteers for each one. These are fun, again, duck, duck, goose kinds of exercises, very low stakes. So if you feel like playing some more, if you would come up and join me as you are inspired. If not, I will pick on people. Come on up.
No, I was asking a question. I have never played Duck, Duck, Goose.
Duck, duck, goose? Don't we all play duck, duck, goose? It is, okay, well, it is a silly game where kids just pat each other on the head and you go duck, 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 and then you say goose randomly, and then that kid has to chase the other kid around the circle. And steal their, it's like musical chairs-ish, sort of like that. Wow, maybe it's a Midwest, I'm from the Midwest, maybe it's a regional thing. But anyway, let me have a couple volunteers to play a game called Zen Count. It sounds calming, right? Zen Count. Sounds calming. It's like meditating. Come on up. It's going to be fun. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just need like 2 more. 2 to 4 more. Anyone? All right. All right. Awesome. Perfect. Perfect. Oh, stay up here. Come on. Cool. So I'm going to have, this is going to be hard for everybody to hear. The whole point is not actually that you can hear what they are doing. It's going to be relatively boring. What's going to be interesting is when they talk about what was going through their minds as they played. So if everybody can bear with us while they're playing, what I'm going to have you guys do is stand as close to, like kind of shoulder to shoulder as you can. The objective is that you are going to count to 21 as a group without 2 people speaking at once and without making any sort of pattern. So I used to play this with inmates in a substance abuse program in prison, and they would be like, oh, we're just supposed to go around the circle, which you can do, but you're not going to have the experience, and it's not going to be that fun. So you want to randomly just start, somebody says 1, somebody says 2. If 2 people speak at once, you're just going to start back over at 1. That's all that's going to happen. If somebody says the wrong number, you're just going to start back over at 1. That's all that's going to happen. And when you get to 21, you're going to be done. So there are no tricks. You're just literally feeling it out. When you feel inspired, you say a number. If you land with somebody else, so be it. You come back to 1. Cool? So when anyone feels ready, they can say 1. 1. 3.
1,
3, 4,
1,
5, 6,
7,
8,
9, 11,
12,
13,
1,
5,
6,
7,
8, 9,
10,
11,
12, 13,
1,
3, 4,
1,
4, 5,
7,
8,
1,
2,
5,
6,
7,
8,
10,
11,
13,
14,
15,
16,
17,
19,
20, 21.
Awesome. So that was the jubilation always is telling in itself. What was going on for you guys while that was happening? I could write a book about this game. I feel like this game, above all else, this is the only game that when I am teaching like an 8 or multi-week course, I have my students play it at the beginning of every class. It is the game that I have center them, that I feel like helps people kind of build group mind and, get connected to each other. And it's interesting how it changes as a group gets more connected and knows one another. I've been in troops where the coach just keeps saying like 10 more, and we end up to 60, 70, because you can just kind of feel it. But what was going on for you guys kind of in your heads while that was happening?
The anxiety kept ratcheting up as higher and higher and higher.
So it's like the stakes get higher. And so what was everyone's response individually to that anxiety? It makes people respond in different ways.
I relaxed.
Were you more willing to say a number or less?
Less.
So you're like, I'm super cool and I'm not participating.
The ratchet up pressure person owned the group.
So
He was Mr. One.
So certain
He was always number one.
So there's like,
That's about right, right?
and I'm not surprised it's the guy in the military who everybody's like, give him 17 through 21. So who else noticed things?
I forgot what number we were going to. I was just listening to see who was going to speak next. And if I hadn't heard something, I was just going to name the next number. So I gave up trying to actually figure out who would, like you came in almost immediately after you did, almost consistently, right after you did. And then I just was like listening, and when everybody jumped like, woo, I went, oh my God, that was a number.
Well,
Totally forgotten.
Well, it's interesting because we were partners on the first mirroring exercise.
Oh, okay.
So
literally,
yeah.
almost as soon as he would say something, you would say something.
Like I was listening for a pattern, even though there wasn't supposed to be
An
a
unconscious
pattern.
pattern.
Right,
Yeah.
but I could feel people's breath, like they were thinking of saying the number,
Yeah.
and there was a
Yeah.
hold of a breath. And sometimes it was immediate, sometimes there was a delay, and kind of picking that up.
Yeah.
Get it out. You took a breath one time, but then you responded one time
And then
very
you
quickly.
did a series of them.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah,
like,
I think towards the end, there was a rhythm. I don't know, it felt like there was
Right,
more of a
right.
rhythm towards
There
the
has
end.
to be, 'cause
And
that's
where it
yeah.
just went, and it didn't stop, it just, numbers
Yeah.
just kept going.
yeah,
You were part of the rhythm too.
yeah, you were. Yeah.
Well,
I thought it
everyone
was
is.
interesting, even though there was no win or lose. Every time we had to start over, we were all like, "Ugh," as if it wasn't fair.
Yeah,
no
it's
winning or
setbacks.
losing.
Right.
Right. Well, so I want to come back to how did the group feel that the group handled the mistake? So
Well, he took it over to one.
So he just like, we are not dwelling on this. We are not going to spend any time. So it's not like everybody went like, who did it? We're going to figure out who it was.
But
What is
it was
wrong with
multiple
you?
people. It was never one person because it was a multiple of. I know I was a 14.
And we never messed up
And
on
he was
one.
one.
We knew we were never going to mess up on one.
So that was helpful
Yeah.
for the group psychologically in doing
Absolutely.
this test was to have a mentality of, we just start over.
Yeah.
It's all right. Like,
And there wasn't
it happened.
time. I mean, we'd all recognize it, and he'd go one. So it'd be like, there was not time to think. It was like, okay, next.
Okay. And that was good.
The reason I said I relaxed and basically stopped and that you had taken over the group is because I've played this probably 1 million times and I've been number one.
So you were like, I'm going to try a new role.
Yeah, and so I bowed out basically.
I was frustrated.
You were getting good. Somebody's own. I love it when somebody will own that they were getting annoyed.
Because we kept having to go back. I know I like made fists every time.
Could everyone feel that? The person who's like, we're not winning.
But you know what it did? Your voice got sharper every time you named a number. Yeah, you were pop, pop, pop out. And
So-
it was like a difference in the tone.
What was your frustration about? Because again, like somebody was noticing, like, because really the reward, it's a game, right? So ostensibly it is fun. If we decide in our brains that it is fun, so it is interesting, first of all, what projection we put on the game, which is she has issued a challenge, and we have to win this thing, and we are going to get done with it, and I am not going to be defeated. That's one frame we can put on this game. The other frame is it's fun. And if it's fun, then that means all that happens is we get to keep playing. So that's cool.
But in a game, people love to have numbers go up. And so as soon as you have the numbers go down, that's a failure and you get frustrated with that. And so as you get higher and higher numbers, you get that anxiety ratcheting up and then, hey, we got it. And
I think
it's
that's
just the
why
release.
If you are not viewing the game with a frame of fun, right? Because otherwise you get into your zone, which is, I'm just saying numbers. I don't know what this is about. Oh, we're at 21. All right, cool.
I mean, when you said that, I literally realized one of the reasons I wasn't thinking about the numbers was I didn't want to get caught in, we're starting again. Let's just play it.
Let's just play. And was anybody just focused on the attunement? Because it can, I have been in this, I kind of get, it took me a long time, but I can get into that zone too, and you're just like, it's just a fun process. But look at all the things that get in the way of us just having a nice process and a nice bit of communication and a nice experience trying to connect and do something with people. We have, I gotta get this done, this has to be done fast, I better be smart, I better not be the one that screws up. You might have gone into your blaming head like, well, I said 14 and she said 14, so she was wrong. Why is she wrong? She's just playing the game. And so are you. So do you go into a blaming mind of, well, she said 14 when I did, so that was super uncool. Or, oh my God, it's all my fault. I said 14, I shouldn't have said 14. Big mistake, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm always a screw up.
I was critiquing, because I thought, why don't we understand? Let's go in a circle. If we did that, there's that rhythm and it's done.
So you were like, let's just go, let's inmate it, and let's like, let's life hack it, which you can do, and you will get efficiency, but you will sacrifice experience and the discovery of, because what you were noticing is there is an unconscious pattern that develops. That's why troops I was in, where we were together for years, you can play this forever. Because there is an unconscious sense of like probably after you goes you, and you make this sound before you go. The same way you were doing with that mirroring exercise. But it's different to be in tune with each other in that way and to be accepting and to know like this is just how we are versus like no you, then you, then you, then you, then you. That's more like dictating this is how we all gotta be so that we can, so it helps us see there's no judgment of any of these ways of being. But I love this game because it helps us see our ways of being in kind of an arbitrary process, as well as to challenge how does that serve us? When is order helpful? And when are rules and efficiency helpful? And when are they taking away from my ability to enjoy life, my ability to enjoy other people, my ability to just be in the moment? So what kind of frame do I want to put on things? Some people hate this game and they are like, can we just get on? But how does that person affect the person who's like, I just want to be in the game, you guys? Like, so how do we do all of that together?
There's one thing that I just realized. When we were standing here, I don't remember seeing anything. So I was like, was I standing there with my eyes closed? Or was I so focused on something? And I don't know if I shut my eyes.
And I don't,
have no clue.
This comes up every time I do this and I don't know the answer. Hopefully, if I ever write the book, I will find out the answer. Because people will have different preferences. And when I was taught this game, the instructor turned the lights off in the room. We were struggling the way you guys, we were like a mess. And she said, let me try this. And she turned the lights out so that the room became pitch black. So I sometimes have people close their eyes or I dim the lights. Or some people will find themselves looking down. Some groups, so I experiment with that with my small groups and my classes who are doing this a lot. Because some people will find, I need to be making eye contact with everybody. Some people are like, I stare straight at the floor. I need to not be in contact. Some close their eyes. It's interesting the type of connection people need to make this work. And everybody's different. And so that's just an interesting piece, and I don't know, but I think it's just something to notice about you.
I recently got hearing aids in both ears. And I noticed it from before, and now just here, I'm listening differently. And so I did look down, and I was listening to, this is going to sound, I was listening to it's like the body shifts in the amount of energy it's producing when they're about to say something. So I almost knew where the sound was going to come from by that. And, I've been fighting the sense that I have to wear hearing aids now, but at the same time, it's making me hear differently. And that's going to impact, that is impacting how I work with people.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. Number one, I can hear them.
It's something good to notice. Yeah.
I've already said I've had a lot of experience with this game, but I go by two things as far as the fun thing is concerned, because I'm way into fun. And two things. One is, if you contend with no one can contend with you. Yeah. And the other thing is, if the Super Bowl is the ultimate game, why do they play it again next week?
Okay.
And I'm extremely competitive.
So there you go. So that will come out. Yeah.
It's interesting that I would say I'm a competitive person, but this was not about competition at all in this game. I found myself, and I found myself looking down. to hear it, but also because I wanted to get the flow of it.
Yeah.
And so when you said that, I realized I really was looking at the floor.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. And I think one thing that I noticed, I did this this game with patients at Colmac Clinic, which is a substance abuse clinic in DC. And it was a very helpful game because the processing question that you can use if you do want to have patients do this is, how does how you played this game mirror how you might do your recovery? So what people found out was, the impatient, I just want to get this done. God, why are we doing this? That those are sometimes the people that are like counting the days and the days aren't high enough and they're relapsing because they constantly feel like they're not getting, better, faster, whatever. And so really you can have people do a lot of reflection in a very non-judgmental space, because what is this about anyway but counting? I mean, it's not that interesting, about how they just are in a process of recovery. Are they somebody who stands back and says like, well, I'm not taking any risks. I'm not going to be the one that screws up. I'm not going to be the one that looks stupid. Which is fine. You can do that. If everybody does that, the game's not going to advance for very long. But if you do that, are you bored? Are you feeling left out of the group? So there are mirrors that we can do in this game to kind of look at, like, how are you doing this process? How might that look like how you're doing your recovery process? And are there ways you could practice doing it differently? Can you try saying a number next time and just see what that feels like? Does it feel like you're a little more alive or having a little more fun or a little more connected? And if so, what might be a small move you could make in your recovery to maybe feel a little more live and connected and less bored? So I love this game for that purpose in terms of recovery and behavior change.
Yeah, all the exercises for me are higher power exercises. Mm-hmm. Because it's like you suspend ego, you surrender your will and your mindset to a power greater than yourself, which starts out as the group. But if you can do that and just kind of step back and let it happen, but be part of the thing that's happening, then you can start getting some recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the biggest number of people you've had do this stuff?
The biggest number in a group? I have probably not done it with more than like 15. I was kind of curious, like, could you do it with 70 people? I don't know. But I feel like it's harder actually to do in a smaller group is where it gets it's difficult, is like groups of 4 or 5. I think there might be a max number where it would be like really hard, and because just the odds of 2 people speaking at once. So I feel like that 8 to 20 is about right. In improv, we generally like to be around 8. That's kind of the sweet spot for improv groups. I think classes, they cap at like 12 or 14, but that's kind of generally, you want like that 6 to 12 number is good to have kind of the right number of juices flowing for some of these activities. But as you guys are seeing, like in some ways, I love doing this large group because there's so much more data and feedback that you guys are giving about what the experience is like. In a smaller group, we wouldn't probably cover this many themes because there just wouldn't be enough people having the experience.
If you're not in a group setting, other than internal understanding and maybe mirroring and things of that nature, how could you use some of these exercises like in a one-on-one concept?
Sure. Some of them would be difficult. I do think I do have some exercises that can be done more one-on-one. I'm trying to think if there's any that we could do, but like a lot of these, like the mirroring one that you guys did, that can be done with 2 people, that's something that you could do. I think with couples, that's very interesting. But yeah, I'm trying to think of how you would adapt some of these to one-on-one. Some of them would be trickier. So in my repertoire, I mean, I have more 2-person games that we're probably not going to get into. That's in your book. In the book, yes, that I'm working on, yeah. Because I do think there's ways to do this, but it is harder because we're also in that clinician role, so it's like, it's not peer-to-peer, which makes it different as well. Yeah, so that's kind of tricky too. Mm-hmm.
We were partners, and as soon as he got up to get up, hell with
Awesome. Well, so speaking of that, I love peer pressure in all cases in improv. So see, that's how that mirroring works. I do want to have you guys see one other game. So I think for those people who just did the last one, either you can come back up yourself or you can nominate someone else to come up and take your place. Because I need about the same amount of people. I can take a couple more. This game is not hard, again, not any high pressure. Get some revenge on your buddy. All right, come on. You've been nominated. Come on. Come on up. Come on up. So for this one, we're going to want a slightly bigger circle. So we're going to want a little more space, so we can kind of make an oval, actually. So if you guys want to push out a little bit. So this game is called Yes Move, and I'm actually going to play this one with you. Yes Move. Yes, comma, move. And I will play this one with you. You can do this with names, but since I do not know all of your names, and I don't know if you know each other's, we're going to skip the names. So in groups where there are no names, I have us just use eye contact and nodding. So the way that this game works is I'm going to look at one of you. I'm going to make direct eye contact. I'm going to be very deliberate about it. Because you're a nice person and a good improviser, you're going to very clearly nod yes and give me permission to come towards you. As I'm coming towards you, I'm going to need to take your spot in the circle, so you need to go to someone else's spot in the circle. So as I'm moving towards you, you need to get a yes from someone else. The trick is you cannot budge your feet until another person has said yes. So you have to get permission before you go. Cool? So we'll just see what happens. Everybody.
Do that non-verbally?
Yeah, all of it is nonverbal. Okay. So we'll practice. So I'll ask for eye contact from you. You will nod yes. That will give me permission to start moving towards you, which means you will need a yes from someone else. And then you need a yes before you can. Ooh. Yeah, see? Bad boy. So. Now you can. Did you get a yes? Uh-oh. All right. So actually, this is perfect, because if this goes too well, I don't get to do my teaching point. So why is this hard? This is not intellectually complex, these rules. Why? What is making us like, how do we play? So what is that?
It's an affirmation to move, but we're not thinking of the second step. I mean, you nodded to me, so I thought I could move.
So you give me a yes, so it's like, and then I start moving. So there's a desire to mirror, like, well, you're moving, I want to move. What else is happening in our brains as somebody's moving towards us? We're getting anxious. It's like, I mean, it's creating, you're having a fight or flight response. This game triggers an immediate fight or flight response over nonsense. This is nonsense. Like, who cares? And generally when you're doing this, there is no audience. It's a little scarier because you guys are all watching. But like, it's nonsense. It's not like if I come stand, take your place, and you haven't moved yet, you're going to vaporize. Like, nothing is going to happen. I mean, I didn't even say anything about, like, you got to do it faster. And we have all made up this, like, oh my gosh. So probably in your brains, you are learning whether or not you are a fight person, or a flight person, which is like, you're going too fast, you're just charging ahead. Or do you get paralyzed and you're like, what are we doing? What are we playing? It's me. I don't even remember. People will literally forget like their best friend's name when they play this game. So it's a really good practice in kind of seeing, and I think empathizing with our patients about how quickly the fight or flight can kick in. Because imagine like you actually have to give a speech or go into a meeting for the first time or like do something actually anxiety provoking and what that's going to trigger. And we can kind of practice, okay, how can I talk myself through that? So if we're aware of it, kind of just let's all take a deep breath. We're going to give ourselves permission. We now consciously know nobody's going to vaporize. Let's even give ourselves more room. We'll make the circle bigger so you have more room in this game means more time to figure out what you're doing. Literally 0 stakes. Just kind of do the best you can. If you screw up, just start over. We'll figure it out. If you notice somebody moving before they get a yes, you can put a mom arm out and, help them out. And we'll just see what this feels like. So I'll start again. Cool, awesome, scene. Very nice job. So what did you guys notice about that second round after we talked about it? Better? What went better? Or what felt different?
Took more time. Just
Take more time.
Relaxed more.
There were still, I noticed,
And when there was a failure, it didn't seem like we stopped.
it didn't seem, I mean, everybody was just kind of like, and there were a lot of people catching themselves. There was a lot of like what I call the falling off the cliff maneuver, which is a good second step. You know, we don't go from like learning to perfect. That's not how this works. I still sometimes screw up in this game. So I think teaching people like, this is a cool step. Like that means that you've got some awareness over what went wrong last time. That's cool. We're all going to keep going. Another thing I will sometimes build into this, especially with groups that are really, and you can do this with Zen Count too, with any game really, is you can have people high five when there's a screw up, like when there's a mistake. You can have people be like, yeah, and then like cheer really loud, which instills this unconscious principle of like, who cares, and this is awesome, and you're playing, like you are trying, and that is what we are applauding. So if groups are really struggling with taking risks, I'll build that in. And that will help people kind of really understand, like, oh, this is really just about being here and trying and doing this, and that's what's being honored, rather than my performance. Because when we get hooked on performance and perfectionism, you know, that's when people give up and when people fold.
So I was curious, is the game intentionally designed where permission has to be given, and what happens if someone doesn't give permission? Is that the
So
intent?
no,
Has to say yes.
the intention is that everyone says yes. Yeah. So generally, in the spirit of improv, everyone would say yes. And you guys can sit if you want to. Thank you. Another piece of processing in line with that may come up if you do use this in groups is this does bring up, I have been surprised because I did not expect it, it will bring up people's boundary stuff. You can get to some very interesting things about like, well, you were coming towards me and I felt like I had to do it even though I wasn't really supposed to, but I felt like I was going to be disappointing you. So it will kind of bring up people's people-pleasing stuff. You can get into a lot around permission and boundaries and people who tend to maybe ignore boundaries or go through them. So you can use it on that level also to get more kind of the unconscious processes or instincts that people might have or the pressures that people might feel like, you know, instead of taking care of myself and just knowing what the rules are and what I'm supposed to do, I'm feeling like you're coming at me really fast and I got to do what you need, you know, which can be a good thing for people to be aware of. So this game can elicit some of that as well.
You talk about fight or flight, but there's also personal space.
Yeah.
And if somebody's coming into what you consider your personal space, even if you've already gotten, how soon are you going to start moving? Because if they're starting to come towards you, and you've got to go ahead, do you immediately start? Do you wait till they're close to you? What's your personal space and what do you need to feel safe?
Yeah, it's a very good thing to be aware of, and it's different for all of us, right? And you might have a different feeling about it if it's person A coming towards you than person B. Right. And that's okay, and that can be an interesting thing to process too, you know, if you really want to get interpersonal with people.
Let's say the population that I work with, the average age is in their mid-50s, and they've been using drugs and alcohol 30 plus years for some of them. And a lot of exercises that I'm trying to do, even like this, the alphabet game, their processing is so slow.
Yeah.
Have you seen hiccups? Because I mean, I think this is a great mindfulness exercise.
Sure.
We're always talking about, you know, people find themselves in a situation before they realize it's trying to help them practice mindfulness. How do you do that when the processing is damaged now from long use?
Sure, and the cognitive. So yes, so I have had groups where like one person or a couple people, it's just kind of cognitively harder. And I think there are some games that you can do that are just more simple, you know, that there is also, though, I think, benefit in saying, like, any game can be adapted and slowed down to suit anyone's speed. So it is kind of like, you know, does the group need to just, like, what does the group need to practice? Can you break it down into its component parts and break it apart? And I don't have to think about how to do that with Yes Move. But there really is a point. I mean, there are improvisers in DC that have like significant stutters, and they've somehow been able to accommodate that and figure that out. And whole mind frame of it is like, I can wait for you to get out whatever you're getting out. Like, there's no time thing, there's no hurry thing. So I think if they literally can't cognitively grasp the steps of 1, 2, 3 at all, then you're probably going to need a simpler game. But if it's just a matter of like, do we need to go slower? Do we need to break it down, you know, even more and just give more room? Or like, you know, sometimes making it verbal will actually help. You know, can you make part of the game other people helping, like that piece? I would have to think about that, but it's something that I think can be accommodated. I would just I'd have to think about it. But I think most of these games can be slowed down, you know, if you take out the whole we got to do it right. It's like, are we trying and are we invested in the process? Yes, I have not done this with children myself. People do this with children. People do like parent-child groups with improv games. So I think a lot, like most of these, I think could be done by kids, different developmental stages. You know, when you get to the adolescence and you get to kind of that place where everybody's going to get like, oh, God, you know, you messed up Zen Count. That's when you might need to do like the high fives when somebody screws up to really, I talked to a group who said that their adolescents get really stuck on like, you messed it up, and they'll get in fights. And my inmates used to do that. Like there would be like fighting and like hostility about like, you're messing up Zen Count. And you're like, well, that's not what we're going for. So that's when you can build in like the high fives and like this really is just about a process and really talking about that and looking at some of those dynamics and what that's about. So I think there are differences with kids. And I don't have direct experience, but I do know people are doing this with children.
So we have twin granddaughters that are going into middle school, and they're both nervous about going from elementary to middle school because the kids are so big and it's different. And that's exactly what I was thinking about use of, you know, not having to get it perfect and maybe we're going to have kind of a family baccalaureate service for them from the Midwest this summer.
Yeah.
It would be fun to incorporate some of this in.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephanie Anderson, who was an improv coach in Washington, D.C., and who now is in Second City in Chicago, she actually was an improviser who was working on the children's unit at Children's Hospital on the psychiatric unit. And she started using improv in her groups. I mean, this is an inpatient psychiatric unit with rapid turnover. And she started using improv just before her groups, just like a game. And then she would do like whatever she normally did in her improv groups. And what is magically transformative, and what I find, I mean, I do trainings on different topics, and I will still sometimes start them with an improv game, because it will make you like me more. It will make you like each other more. There is something automatically cohering in a group about an improv game. And she has a great way of breaking that down and all the psychological components of, you know, the support, the trust, the collaboration. They're things that we all know. But improv games get to it almost immediately. So in groups where you are having trouble with cohesion, where you're having trouble getting people to loosen up, where you're having trouble getting people to just kind of flow and be, sometimes these games can kind of, and sometimes it's just because now they're all annoyed at you for making them play a stupid game. It kind of just helps with how the group will feel automatically. I have a lot of pastors that I work with that are using some of these in congregations that feel stuck and just kind of where they can't quite get people to relate and everybody sort of wants to just, you know, stare ahead and not really be in community. So these have an interesting kind of collaborative feel to them that is part of the magic that you can't quite replicate or get to as fast in other ways. I can't do it just talking or having other people talk. Any other questions?
I've used improv here and it works quite well.
Yeah.
I'm the peer of it loosens people up and makes them comfortable sharing and really works.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who use improv, you know, applied improvisation in training. And they have a lot of this feeling of like, you really can't just do this. You have to be trained and have experience and and I don't believe that. I mean, I think it is helpful to have a good, 5 years of experience behind me teaching this. Helps me anticipate what you're going to say, helps me know. But really, like, if you can do group process and you can work with groups and facilitate that, this is just discussing like anything else. It's just giving you an experience to discuss that is not personal. And the games, as you can see, are not complex. They do take some, kind of skill and practice to facilitate. But, you don't need like a master's degree in it. You do it a couple times, you can figure it out. So I feel like if you find this fun and it feels like it's an authentic match, like try it, experiment with it. Your patients will tell you if they don't like it or not. I do normal interpersonal process groups, and I don't do a ton of improv in them, but I will bust out a game from time to time if something seems highly relevant. I've done it in the prison, and some of them hated it, and they were like, we never want to do that again, and some of them loved it, and they wanted to do it all the time. So, you can experiment. The internet is full of improv exercises. They are everywhere. Someone was telling me there are improv classes in this area, and I am a big proponent of clinicians just taking normal improv classes. I believe even if you never apply any of it outside, it will make you better at just being in the moment, being spontaneous, getting the fun back in your work, having just a different frame to look at things. There's a guy in Israel who actually just embedded improv into the clinical training in a psychology program. And he wrote a research paper because they did a qualitative study of the impacts, and they found that it had significant clinical impacts on the trainees and on how they worked with their clients and what was going on in sessions. So I believe there's something to this, and it's not anything that's going to be hurtful, and it could be quite helpful. So.
A long time ago, I was doing some other training, and it was suggested that I take an acting class. And I thought that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I was embarrassed, and I was uncomfortable, and it was everything. And yet, as a result of doing that, I can see 20-umpteen years later, in my practice, when I'm working with somebody, I have no problem role-playing. I have no problem being real with them. I will act out a part for them, and it gives them a place to feel less on the spot or less uncomfortable. This really does make a difference in just freeing yourself up and being able to work with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we know about improvisation and the brain, and what I know just experientially, because I went into improv and I was like I was so self-conscious. I felt like everyone was staring at me. I felt goofy. We do these things where they want you to scream and yell, and I just wanted to die. But over time, now I look back, and when I'm teaching people, I have to, because my students will be struggling, and I'm like, you guys, it's just Zen Count, like it's not that hard. But I have to remember, like, this was once hard. And so what we know when they do MRI scans of musical improvisers, it over time, just like meditation, they know changes the structure of the brain, it starts to dismantle the prefrontal cortex and the sensor and all of those messages that come in saying, don't say that, that's silly, that's a goofy. Like literally now when I do things, there are thought processes I don't even have to have. And I can turn them on if I'm editing a paper and I need them, but I literally have the capacity now, and I believe most improvisers do, to know I don't need that right now. I need to turn that off and just let myself play. And our brains generally need to do both. We need to be able to be creative. So it's a good skill, just I believe, for the brain. I mean, I do it as exercise for myself.
It makes a difference in the kind of interventions you might give.
Yeah.
For example, if somebody has an anger problem, and people laugh at me when I say this, but the reality is instead of screaming and yelling at somebody, walk around and quack like a duck. As silly as that sounds, you're getting all the energy out, and by the time you're done, you're probably laughing. You can communicate again, but if you don't have that frame of reference that it's okay to be silly,
right?
Then how are you going to tell your clients it's okay to be silly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. One question, one comment. Do you know the name of the researcher from Israel so we can look it up?
Yes, it's yes. I have the paper in a reference list that I think maybe printed off. If not, if you email me, I have cards. It's Isael Romanelli, I think. Isael Romanelli. But yes, I have it. I can send it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, a quick comment, actually kind of piggybacking what you were saying, Marcia, is that the frame of reference thing I think is really important because I find with my clients, they didn't even know there could be another frame of reference. They think their frame of reference is the truth, that's it, case closed, no need even to talk about it. Just the idea that you could even introduce the idea of, especially when it comes to their own life narratives. They come in with a narrative, and they think that's the truth, and I think a lot of what I do is teaching them the idea there's another narrative that you can build on when you start defaulting to the old stuff. So this exercise, I think, is very much consistent with building that kind of awareness.
Yeah, and you can look at a lot of storytelling. There are a lot of improv storytelling exercises. I was hoping we'd do one today, but we didn't have time, where you can engage people in looking even at that story frame and looking at their own narrative and how can you write the narrative differently and how do we build a narrative. Absolutely. And actually what I can do is I can ask Darlene to email you guys, because I have an updated bibliography that I don't think is what I have printed here where I added the research. So I can have her email that to all you guys. I assume she has your info. And it'll give you a whole bibliography of more things than you ever wanted to look at. Any other questions? Yes.
I just wanted to share some information. There's a comedy theater in Norfolk called Push Comedy Theater that offers improv classes for kids through adults in comedy writing and sketch writing.
What's it called?
Push Comedy Theater. It's on Granby Street. PUSH.
Awesome.
Does anybody know any improv groups here in Williamsburg? This area?
I think the Funny Bone Comedy Club, and I don't know if there's one in Williamsburg.
Okay.
I know they have comedy like classes, and I think embedded in those classes are improv sessions. I've not researched it, but after today, I'm like, oh, that might be something interesting.
Yeah. And I think it is a very, I mean, I came to improv on my own. I refer patients into improv. I actually met my husband because he was referred into improv to deal with social anxiety, and now we are married improvisers. Our wedding vows were based on improv. But I think part of why I started running the Improv for Therapists program is that I wanted therapists to be just exposed to improv so that you might know, if there is improv in this area, when to send your clients, because this can be life-altering. I mean, I have clients that have gotten rapidly unstuck, and they haven't done the improv with me. I send them to WIT, and they go just take an 8-week class, and sometimes they keep going. But it can rapidly unstick people and help them find, I find often people in recovery have no community, no support, and it just it helps fill that social gap, depending on what the scene is like around here, very instantly, and it can be very helpful. And I don't like to refer people into things I haven't experienced, so I think it's good to just do this on your own. There are also a tremendous amount of people, as you can imagine, in the improv community who are in recovery. There's a lot of overlap.
Ozzy's Comedy Club in Newport News has a comedy institute.
Cool, yeah.
Ozzy's, COZZY''S Comedy Club.
And a lot of times, if they know there's a demand for improv, even if they don't have it, there is someone that they know who could teach it and will. Improv, we're all just out there. And so sometimes if you ask them and you say, hey, we need to start sending people, they'll start a class, or someone will just come do one for you.
They also have a comedy for veterans who have PTSD. Yeah, comedy boot camp, and that kind of works a lot of people getting unstuck. A lot of different things.
Yeah.
I'm one of the people that could teach it. So
There you go.
if anybody wants to talk to me.
Yeah.
And you're local?
I live in Williamsburg.
Cool. You guys want to do one more game really quick as a group?
Okay.
So this one you can actually stay sitting. This is called Soundscape. If you are so inclined, people often like to, what I usually do with this in a small group is I have people lay on the floor actually with their heads in the middle, so they're like kind of a wheel. I'm not going to have you guys do that. That would be totally weird. But I teach in carpeted classrooms where it's less weird. But you can do this in any kind of configuration. But you can just, if you want to close your eyes or look down at the floor, whatever you're comfortable with, the whole idea with this is that you know that nobody's really looking at you. Nobody cares what you're doing. Nobody knows who's doing what. And this is just a soundscape. So the whole idea is you can make any noise that you want. You can sing. You can stomp your foot. You can not do anything. You might hear a noise and think, oh, that noise, I'm going to make this noise to go with that noise. Or you might think, I don't want to go with that noise. But we're just going to kind of hear what the room comes up with. And if you want, the room may move to where we kind of create a scene where we're all clearly in a space, and we may move in and out of that or not. But you just are at liberty to make any sound that you want, as you want, when you want. And nobody's going to know what you're doing because nobody's looking. And we'll just see what happens. Cool? Yeah. Ready? Go. We already have a sound. I love it. And scene. Awesome. Very nice job. Anybody have a mental image at any point of anywhere that they went? Anybody the rainforest? I heard the rainforest. Anybody go anywhere else? Jungle. Anything else? I was at an amusement park for a minute. There was something like roller coastery sounding over here. But that can be very cool. With smaller groups, you can really have them work on creating a scene together. And they will literally, you'll be like, oh, we're at the ocean, then we're here. Then, so you can do varying levels of togetherness, and, we're not worried about togetherness, to work on skills with groups. And it's just it can be a very cool experience. I will often dim the lights for that too, and use it as kind of a end of the day relaxation thing with a smaller group. Cool. Well, any other questions that I can answer? It's been a pleasure working with you guys. Thank you so much for being so open.